Good morning, everyone, and welcome to OTC Live. Today, we'll be visiting with Jeff Schellebarger on the topic of Houston, the Global Center for Energy Transition. Before I get started, I want to remind everyone that in this format, you'll have the ability to ask questions, and I encourage you to interact with us in the chat section as we'll be monitoring this and responding after our dialogue. I'm Galen Cobb, Vice President, Industry Relations for Halliburton. I also have the pleasure and privilege to serve on the OTC board and the World Petroleum Congress USA National Committee. Houston is the energy capital of the world, and now we can say that it's also the energy transition capital of the world. Houston is the hub of innovation for space, for energy, medical, and we're a platform for hosting international events that get global attention. The energy transition is changing everything we know, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people when it comes to its timing and to its implementation. I personally prefer the term energy evolution, since we are not transitioning away from conventional oil and gas sources, but according to the EIA, we will actually be producing and consuming more fossil fuels in 2050 than we do now and for some time beyond. All energy sources will be critically important. And as the renewables grow, the traditional fossil fuel sources will also need to grow and be produced in improved and sustainable ways. Today, we're going to talk about the World Petroleum Congress, which is being held here in Houston this December. And I want to thank OTC for providing this opportunity for all that OTC does to promote energy, technology, and understanding, as well as the promotion of the World Petroleum Congress. The WPC will provide timely and important messages from the top global energy thought leaders and companies about the energy evolution and what it really means to everybody. As a quick background, the WPC was first founded almost 90 years ago, and it's comprised of approximately 70 member oil and gas producing countries. It's premier oil and gas forum that's held globally every 3 years. The last time it was held in Houston was about 35 years ago. So just over 12 years ago, we decided to change that and once again bid to host the Congress in the USA and particularly in Houston. During the past 12 years, it took us 3 bid cycles to be awarded the Congress. In 2016, our bid committee delegation traveled to Bahrain to make our Houston bid presentation. We had support from the U.S. State Department, from the Houston consulates, from the state of Texas, from the city of Houston, from all the energy companies, from OTC, CERAWeek, industry, trade associations, and most importantly, from Houston First. Mayor Turner played a big role in our delegation, and we won the bid against Vancouver, Canada, with an overwhelming vote. After winning the bid in 2016, the work then began to create an organizing committee and plan for the 2020 event. We needed a chairman of the organizing committee that when we reached out to the most qualified executive in the energy industry to lead this effort. Jeff Schellebarger at that time was president of Chevron, responsible for all of Chevron's crude oil and natural gas exploration and production operations in the US and Canada. He was perfect for the job. And through some encouragement, Jeff agreed to take on the role and immediately started assembling a high-performing organizing committee staff headed by our COO, Sally Sargent, and a team which were assembled from successfully planning and organizing the past Houston Super Bowl in 2017. Well, I've said enough about the history of the WPC. Now I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Schellebarger to tell us why he's contributing his time and efforts to this and what to expect at the Congress. Jeff?
Well, good morning, Galen. Thanks for the introduction. It didn't take too much coercion, but I'm very happy to be chairing this illustrious event. I guess the question is, why is this important? Why is this important to me? Is, the topical conversation today and what really people want to talk about in our industry is what is the future and what is the transition? What does this energy transition look like? We talk a lot about that at the very high level. Companies have strategies built around it. But, getting down to the nitty gritty of that and what are people doing around the world, I think there's a lot of interest in hearing more about that. most of you all have heard, and I think most of the companies and government organizations are dealing with what they call the dual challenge. We have to meet stakeholder expectations with respect to lowering carbon footprints, but we also have to continue to provide affordable, reliable, and available energy to the rest of the world. As Galen said, IEA and EIA, certainly oil and gas is going to be a big part of that. And so how do we recognize that or realize that? And that really comes down to starting with the conversation and including a much larger global audience. So a World Petroleum Congress is different from most other large industry events in that the participants are countries, not companies. And we have the opportunity to hear from countries around the world, national oil companies, international oil companies, local companies, service companies, and stakeholders. They'll all be at the World Petroleum Congress, and they'll all engage in that dialogue, sharing their perspectives on what energy transition looks like, what are some of the realities that have to be considered, and what are some of the perspectives from around the world, because certainly that conversation is different if you're in the US or Europe versus if you're in Africa or the Far East or South America. So we look forward to hosting an event, putting together an event that allows all of these conversations to take place, that allows all these perspectives to be shared, with the hope that at the end of the day, we all come away with a bit better understanding of where we go over the next few years on this journey towards, as Galen says, energy evolution or energy transition. That brings us back to Houston. So it did take a lot of work to get this Congress in Houston. It's been since 1987. And the question is, why Houston? And of course, it's because Houston is recognized as the global center for oil and gas, the global hub for oil and gas. I think the rest of the world is very interested in understanding, what's gone on in the U.S. over the last 10 years. Certainly, there's been an energy revolution in and of itself with shale and tight resources. And certainly people are familiar with Houston, its reputation for hosting large events. It's the center for a number of national and international company headquarters, service companies, R&D. We've built a very strong foundation for energy startups. We've got academic institutions here. So a lot of reasons to come to Houston, a lot of other things people can do when they get to Houston. So I think it becomes a great place to host an event like this. With respect to the event itself, it's a multi-day event. What we have are very high-level sessions across the morning. These are plenary sessions. They'll have individuals, ministers, CEOs, the leaders of our industry around the world sharing their perspectives on these various topics. We have strategic sessions, roundtable sessions, panel discussions with other stakeholders, CEOs, ministers, sharing their perspectives on other topics. We have a track with U.S. focused sessions. One of the things the world wanted to hear is more detail on some of the things that we've done. The theme of the Congress is innovation. One of the things we want to highlight is how has that innovation applied itself to things like unlocking the shale and tight resources in the U.S., particularly the Permian. So we'll have a panel session of folks that were part of that led that effort over the last 10 years, talk about how all that happened. That plus more technical sessions, special events. Galen, we can go into more of that if you want to, but we have a packed session planned for the first week of December. All of that will be, I think, topical. All of that will be of an interest to the audience. And certainly, again, as I said, we'll come away with, I think, a deeper understanding and appreciation for the opportunities around energy transition and some of the things that have to be considered.
So, Jeff, the Congress will be gathering a lot of industry and government leaders, ministers from around the world to share their global perspectives and aspects of the industry, especially regarding what you've just described, the current energy transition evolution landscape. Can you tell us just a little bit more? You've given us an overview of the programming, and what attendees will expect to hear and experience at the Congress. I think we just got confirmed the General Secretary from OPEC will be coming. So could you go into just a little bit more detail on what to expect and as far as speakers and what attendees will be able to benefit from this Congress?
Yeah, we have over 100 speakers. I can't go down the whole list of those things today. We'll be publishing that here in the next week or so, an updated list of the folks that have confirmed attendance. But essentially, we have over 100 high-level government speakers, ministers, CEOs, national oil company CEOs, service company, et cetera, that are confirmed to attend. The topics are wide-ranging, but they all cover different aspects of innovation and perspectives on energy transition, as I said before. We will look at this from a global perspective. We will look at it from a regional perspective. We'll look at these things from a value chain perspective, upstream, downstream, midstream. We'll look at these things from a stakeholder perspective, government policy perspective. So each of those different perspectives will be explored by these high-level speakers and their thoughts and their perspectives.
Well, I know we've got a lot to offer for a lot of different constituents, and with the international visitors from the U.S. Perspective, the Houston-based companies and U.S. companies will have a lot to gain from this. And of course, we're reaching out to a very diverse audience. We'll have young professionals programs, and we'll have a lot of diversity within our programs themselves. And I think we have something to offer all the way across the value stream for the oil and gas, as well as for the energy transition, renewable space that's coming. So the World Petroleum Congress is going to be something that really meets a lot of needs. It'll have a lot of publicity, a lot of media attention. It'll be a great opportunity for messaging to get out from industry leaders, as well as government leaders, policy leaders around the world. And it's a very timely time for that, because right now we're seeing that energy pricing and prices are rising. There's concerns with the supply and demand. There'll be a lot of questions about that as we go through this energy evolution. So I don't think our timing could be any better for a conference and for this kind of dialogue. Jeff, is there anything you ever want to say further about? I think we have some special events that relate to the opening ceremonies, USA Night, young professionals. You want to comment on any of that?
Sure. Let me pick up from a couple of things that you said, though. First of all, I just want to reemphasize this is a global gathering of the highest level experts, CEOs, ministers in the oil and gas industry. So we've never had a convening of that group in the last 4 or 5 years. And the World Petroleum Council is historically taken on these large conversations and made progress in those conversations. So we expect the same to happen this year. The other perspective is that we don't have, as Galen said, energy transition is happening before our eyes. So what may have been a topic, 6 months to a year ago is quickly changing. I think as you look at the world situation, how we, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, survive what's forecast to be a colder winter, how some of the strategies that we've already laid out for energy transition work, these will be topics of discussion, speculation, and perspectives in our meeting. So it will be very topical, it will be very timely, and I think it will be to the point of giving us a good idea of where we are at and where we need to be with respect to thinking about transition going forward. The event itself, it is a face-to-face event. We want to build relationships. It's been a long time since people have been to face-to-face meetings, as I'm sure everybody's aware. So all of the events are going to try to facilitate and reinforce that face-to-face network building, relationship building. The events themselves will do that. We've got some special events, an opening ceremony Sunday night. We have ministerial reception, a bunch of private receptions on Monday. Tuesday will be a lot of fun. It will be a USA night showcasing, the culture, the entertainment, and the hospitality of the U.S. with a little bit of a Texas flair. And then the last night we'll have a closing ceremony. We'll be handing over the World Petroleum Congress to Canada that night, and so in typical Canadian fashion, they'll also have a nice ceremony or reception around that. So lots of different things that are going on in parallel. A very busy 3 days, but I think everybody will have the opportunity to learn something, and everybody have the opportunity to, meet the players in the energy business around the world.
So Jeff, as you well know, safety is always the number one issue and concern for our industry and in any event that we participate in. And of course, OTC was very successful in hosting the OTC conference and the protocols that were in place for that. I'd like you just to describe for the visitors that will be coming to Houston, and for those that will be attending the event, what safety protocols we'll have in place to ensure that we have, the most safe Congress in still some challenging times as people want to get back together and meet and be physically together. We all have that pent-up desire to do that, but how do we do that in the most safe way? And I know we have several things in place to assure that that happens. If you want to comment on that.
Sure, that's a great question, Galen. And number one, safety of the participants and everybody involved in this, that's our number one priority. The George R. Brown is an extremely modern facility. They have had a number of events over the last 4 or 5 months, all following a pretty regimented set of safety protocols with masking, with testing, social distancing and everything else. We plan to use those same protocols for the event in December. We're asking that everybody have a vaccine to attend a recent test. And so that will be a strong request. I think that helps get everybody comfortable about participating. We also have the Texas Medical Center here in Houston. They are a strong advocate of both monitoring the situation and helping us shape our protocols. If something needs to change towards the last minute, depending on how the virus is evolving, we'll have them to rely on and give us guidance and advice for that. So I was at the OTC. I think that what you all experienced there will be very similar to what you would experience at the World Petroleum Congress. We do have a large exhibition area. We expect to have a lot of people, a lot of activity, a lot of things going on in that exhibition area. But most importantly, we want everybody to feel comfortable and everybody to feel safe there.
Well, great. Well, we can see on the backdrop behind you the presenting sponsors that and their logos there. I know that each of those companies have stepped forward the last 2 years as this got extended a year, and have been very supportive both financially and as far as contributing time and effort and resources. So we thank those sponsors that are listed there, because they really are a key part of making this not only a success financially, but a success for a Congress promotion. And Jeff, you might just elaborate a little bit more on the exhibit space. It is at the George R. Brown, but I don't think it's going to be just your typical exhibit floor with box exhibits that we all are familiar with. It's ramped up a bit. You might share some of that.
Well, I'd like to second the thank you to the sponsors. We have 10 premier level sponsors. This group of companies, both U.S. and international companies, have gotten together and jointly hosting this event. So their support has been key in helping us manage through the delays and COVID and everything else that's gone on. They're very excited about hosting this event. They're very excited about coming to Houston and bringing their delegations and their stakeholders and others here. So we look forward to that. But that's been just very, very important for us and our success going forward. With respect to the exhibition floor, I mean, I think everybody understands exhibition floors and have had different experiences there. We've got the whole bottom of the George R. Brown wide open for exhibition. We'll have the key exhibition areas for our major sponsors, for other presenters and folks that want to come in there. But in addition to that, we'll have an international village, and these will be areas for each one of our national committees that come from around the world. So you have a chance to see the different countries and to see the different groups within those countries and talk to them. We'll have international other companies that are there. And then we'll have an area for posters. We'll have a startup stage to illustrate and introduce some of the new ventures or startup companies in Houston that are serving and supporting the energy industry. And finally, we'll have what we call the sustainability journey. And so scattered around the show floor will be different stations where people will be talking about their various aspects of sustainability in ESG. And so not just what they are, but actually hear from companies and other stakeholders what they are doing in that area. As part of a best practice sharing, but it's also part of trying to illustrate just what the depth and breadth of sustainability is in our industry. So what you can expect when you go on the show floor, there'll be food down there, there'll be other things, is a very dynamic and exciting place to mingle around, spend some time, and learn a lot about what's going on in the industry today.
Well, I know that last year everyone was making adjustments. Of course, we originally scheduled this to be December of last year, but in so many ways, a lot has happened the last 24 months. And I think even with that delay, it really provides us an opportunity to really have thought through some of these issues, be able to highlight issues that weren't on a lot of people's plates a couple of years ago, but that due to COVID and to the way we've had to restructure our business and operate differently, that and with the energy transition and evolution evolving rapidly, I think our timing, even though it was delayed a year, may be more pinpoint as far as when we'd really like to get this messaging out.
Yeah, and again, our industry, if nothing, is dynamic, and it doesn't stay still, and it continues to progress. It has to deal with what happens in the world, and I think it does it very effectively. The theme of our meeting is innovation. This industry is one of the most innovative industries ever. When you look at the challenges that they've faced over the last 120 years, how it's solved those challenges, how it's de-risked new sources of hydrocarbon, et cetera, the technology evolutions. And so, the current situation is what it is. I think the energy industry is responding very, very rapidly and very effectively to that situation. So when we all get together in December, again, what you can count on is that the conversations that we'll be having are going to be topical, they're going to be important, they're going to be what's on everybody's mind. And we ought to be able to progress a common view of some of the perspectives that are shared.
Very good. Well, I know as we bid on this, we bid this Congress as a walkable Congress, which is important for visitors outside of Houston. If you're coming in internationally or from other cities, you don't want to go to your hotel and then spend time on buses trying to get to the event. Everything will take place at the George R. Brown with the headquarters hotel at the Hilton Americas and the Marriott Marquis anchoring it. So virtually, we'd encourage everyone to stay in that location. All the events will take place there. You don't have to deal with traffic, and we'll be able to socialize very well. So making this a walkable event, I believe, really has a lot of attributes and positive attributes for folks coming, especially from internationally, so that they can just be in one location and be able to interact very fluently with other people. So being a walkable event is something that we're excited about, and to have the facilities that we have in Houston are first class. So that was a big selling point in the bid, and I know that we'll be able to benefit from that. Jeff, you might mention a little bit about the big award that takes place. It's the Dewhurst Award, and who'll be getting that this year.
So the Dewhurst Award is one of the most prestigious awards in the industry, recognizing longstanding contributors to the industry. Dan Jurgen is the recipient of that award this year, and we'll have a number of folks there to talk about their perspectives of the industry and talk about Dan, and then we'll hear from Dan directly. And I think as everybody knows who Dan is and his contributions to CERA and to the industry and others, we'll look forward to hearing from Dan, and we'll certainly look forward to celebrating his long-term contributions.
Yeah, well, we're very fortunate in Houston. We have a lot of great global conferences, of course, CERAWeek, OTC, now the WPC. We are the energy capital of the world, and it's great to see the cooperation of all these conferences coming together. We all have worked together to support and promote. We all have our own uniquenesses in our conferences, and I think that those that will be able to attend the WPC in December will see the global aspect of this and be able to participate in a real timely way on topics that are extremely important.
Right.
I might just reinforce again the dates. It's December 5 through 9. So how many days is that from now, Jeff?
52, Galen, 52.
So the organizing committee is hard at work in the remaining 52 days, but it will be globally attended. It's a robust program, as Jeff has mentioned, high impact networking. Everyone really wants to get back together. The exhibition space will be special and unique. The special events will be really great, and we'll be located in the heart of downtown Houston at the George R. Brown. There's still sponsor and exhibit opportunities. So if you want to not only attend, but would like to become a sponsor or to check in on
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. It looks like Galen has some internet issues right now. So we are waiting for him to join momentarily.
Okay, well, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I just would make one last point, and then we have a short video, and then we thought we would go into Q&A. So I think the very last point to make, and not repeat everything that's been said, but we have a great opportunity in here to host a conversation that's topical. It's going to include perspectives that we don't normally hear in our day-to-day routines, and the fact that we can have a variety of global perspectives on the issues of energy transition and the future of our industry is really a special opportunity. So we're trying to make the most of that. Again, focusing on a face-to-face, focusing on relationship building, and focusing on a really dynamic week-long series of events. I would encourage everybody to come. The other question, is, Galen was getting to it, is we host a lot of big events in Houston. This is not meant to be either or. I think that if you look at the calendar between starting this event in December, CERAWeek early on in the year, OTC later in the springtime, and then some of the professional events that go on next year, these conversations keep going and going and evolving and evolving. So, I look at this Congress as a chance to really solidify a conversation, but I expect that conversation to continue. And I expect that, Houston hosting this with all the support that we get from the industry and the large consumers that are here in Houston, plus our stakeholders, it will be well received and well attended. And, we'll continue to evolve that conversation. What I'd like to do is just cap out this part of the introduction to a short video that sums up everything that we said, get you all excited about it, and then we can go into some Q&A.
We all have hope for the future, a future that offers sustainable energy for all. We can reach that future by changing the conversation. For the first time since 1987, the United States will host the World Petroleum Congress in the energy capital of the world, Houston, Texas. Home to more than 4,600 energy companies and a global city brimming with culture and personality. The conversation starts December 5th, 2021. The 23rd World Petroleum Congress offers an extraordinary opportunity to connect global industry leaders. A venue to talk about the challenges and opportunities of the industry and to hear different perspectives. You will interact with some of the world's most influential business and political leaders, participate and lead panels on innovation, and be a part of the most synergetic global environments for knowledge exchange. This is a unique moment in time to shape and influence the future and be energized by conversations about transforming the energy sector. The theme for the 23rd World Petroleum Congress is Innovative Energy Solutions, reflecting the heart and spirit of this Congress through robust programming comprised of keynote strategic sessions for global industry leaders and an extensive technical program to the engaging exhibition floor. Expect this Congress to be an impactful and influential gathering that will shape the energy conversations for years to come. The 23rd World Petroleum Congress, December 2021 in Houston, Texas, USA. Be part of the global energy conversation.
Okay, well, maybe we'll get our moderator back, but if not, I'm happy to dive in. First of all, we have a section for sending comments in. So if you have a comment or a question, please send those in. I'm looking at the list, and welcome to everybody from Nigeria, from Colombia, from Houston, from Vietnam, Port Harcourt, and around the world. So this is great to have this kind of participation in an event like this, different time zones in different places. One question that I'm looking over the list of questions, but one question is in the spirit of dual energy challenge, how much or what's the focus or participation going to be from non-oil and gas companies and technologies? That's a really good question, and I'd say quite a bit. First of all, we have the companies and countries and industry that we talked about. We want to have we have a large delegation from the midstream and the downstream parts. So those, normally this is an upstream focused thing, but we'll have different parts of the value chain there. We have a couple of sessions lined up to talk about energy transition from the perspective of energy consumers. So large consuming countries will have delegations there to share their perspectives. And here locally in Houston, we'll be highlighting some of the work that the Greater Houston Partnership has been doing with respect to what energy transition looks like in Houston and what can Houston do to better support energy transition, alternative energies. So, you know, folks like NASA, the Texas Medical Center, you know, companies and organizations that are large consumers of energy, retail energy, you know, they have a very strong perspective as well as what energy transition looks like. And so we'll hear from them on, you know, how they see energy transition, what their needs are and what their concerns are, and how that fits into this larger puzzle of what energy transition looks like.
Well, I'm back. Sorry about that. In the energy capital of the world, we had an energy blackout.
Well, we're into Q&A, Galen, and we just talked about focused participation from non-oil and gas companies and technologies. I would just add two more things to that. One, as I said before, we have a really robust startup and innovation community going on in Houston. It's supporting many different industries, but a large part of that funding now is starting to flow to the energy industry, both traditional oil and gas as well as the alternative energies. We have the Ion Center with Rice that just opened up, and amongst many others that support that. They'll be showcased in this event because I think that startup technology piece is really critical to the innovation that's going to be required to deliver some of the solutions that we need to deliver over the next few years. In addition to that, we'll have stakeholders, government representatives from around the world, as well as U.S. government representatives, and the conversation of what are the right policies, where are there some gaps in policies, what new policies need to come together, how does industry and government work together on forming these policies to support energy transition. We'll also be hearing from some of those stakeholders.
Okay. Do you see any other questions, Jeff, that haven't been posed or answered yet?
Well, there's a question about ocean thermal energy conversion, and I think that's more your bailiwick, Galen. I think that I would say there won't be a specific session for that. That topic in terms of alternative energy and sources will be probably opportunities to cover things like that will be through several technical sessions and maybe some of the panel discussions.
Yeah, we do have a wide variety of panel speakers that will be able to share details, even in sessions that may not be titled that technically. They'll be covering what they'll be doing in the future in their companies regarding especially the work in the oceans, which will be such a vital part of our energy future.
Right. So there's a good question about how will the outcome of the event reshape the existing sustainability agenda of energy companies. And so again, to sort of reinforce what we said earlier, there is a lot of work going on around sustainability within different companies and countries around the world. We rarely have an opportunity to bring all that work together so that we can better communicate as an industry exactly what's going on. In this sustainability journey, we'll hear directly from companies, governments, stakeholders, what they're actually doing in that regard. The idea there is to demonstrate there's really tangible actions that take place, demonstrate how these initiatives are maturing across the industry, and then share best practices. I think we've all been to events here over the last couple of years where people are still trying to figure out where they want to go in this space. Sharing best practices from companies that are much farther along that journey is a great way to help progress the entire industry itself. So, my expectation would be by this type of sharing and these types of conversations, everybody that participates in the Congress would come away with some ideas and some better perspective on how sustainability is being managed and what the priorities in the various sustainability initiatives are.
Jeff, I think there's one thing that we can mention too. Always around World Petroleum Congresses, there are tours that can be made available for attendees that are kind of on the days before or sometimes days after the actual Congress. Houston, of course, has more capability, and a lot of companies have volunteered to provide access on some special tours. Could you elaborate any on what our plans, our general plans are for that opportunity? As people come to Houston, they can not only experience the Congress, but they can also experience all the technology things we have going on right here in the heart of our city.
So we're working with a number of different companies to set up those opportunities. We'll see what the demand is, but we have R&D departments from a number of large service companies as well as international oil companies that are going to be made available for participants to see. As I mentioned before, some of our startup innovation labs or innovation communities that we have are open for tours, and we want to showcase some of that. NASA is always, maybe one of the strongest long-standing innovators that we have in the Houston area. They would love to host groups of people to see what the latest and the greatest is in their part of the world. as you all know, a lot of the technology that we've developed in space actually finds its way into the oil and gas world and vice versa. So talk a little bit about that. And even places like the Texas Medical Center, which has a very, very mature innovation hub in and of itself. And there's a lot of overlap and a lot of synergy between what we do in the medical industry and what we do in the oil and gas industry around data and analytics. They're also open as well. So, those are some of the areas that we've got on the list to showcase and highlight. Final details of that should be coming out shortly.
Well, great. I think we've extinguished most of, not all the questions. Of course, if more come in, feel free to contact Jeff or me. We are excited about this event. It's been a long time in coming. We think the timing is excellent. We're looking forward to a robust Congress. It's not too late to sign up. In fact, now it's I think the rush time going on as far as registering. People have been waiting to see how the COVID protocols and getting back together will develop. I think things are now opening up to do this very well. So we're going to see a lot of registrations here in the last 52 days. So you're not too late to register. We encourage you to do so. Don't miss out on this event. It'll be a place you'll want to be the first week in December. It was planned around this time of year for a lot of reasons. We didn't want to compete with other congresses that are in Houston, but it's also a great time of the year. The weather is really good in Houston during this time. And it's between Thanksgiving and Christmas, so people can come to town and do a lot of extracurricular things. A lot of great shopping here, so this is going to be a fun event. And we're very fortunate to get it back to Houston after so many years. I know Canada will be picking it up in a couple of years, and we'll be supporting them in their efforts. But there's so much to talk about. We've got a tremendous slate of speakers from all over the world that will be sharing their perspectives in a very timely method. It'll be very interactive. There'll be a lot of dialogue. There'll be a lot of comments. There'll be a lot of press around this. So we're very, very excited for this opportunity. Jeff, do you have any closing comments before I remind everybody of our website? Then go register. I appreciate you closing us out.
So just to reinforce, we are open for business. We are moving forward. Our website is 23wpchouston.com. On that website, you can find out information around registration. You can also find out the latest and the greatest on the program. Where we're at right now is in the process, actually today and tomorrow, of finalizing the week-long program and finalizing the list of the main speakers. And so all that stuff over the next few days will be published and updated on that website. It will be continually updated as everybody gets locked in over the next couple of weeks. We do have a special industry rate of $1,950 for OTC, the OTC community. So I also encourage you to take advantage of that. That's kind of a one-stop shop to be able to participate in the entire week-long Congress. So I hope to see you there. It really will be different. It will be timely, and it will be, I think, very important for anybody in the industry to understand these perspectives and to participate in that conversation. So we look forward to hosting it. We look forward to having you all there, and everybody have a safe time until December.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate your leadership in this, the work of the organizing committee, all of the presenting sponsors, everyone that's gotten behind this. We really appreciate it, and we know it's going to be a big success. I want to thank everyone that has tuned in to watch us live and that will be watching it as it's recorded, and you can tune in later. We appreciate that. I see we have participants from all over the world that are watching and participating. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you, OTC, for this opportunity to work together and to promote the World Petroleum Congress this December. So with that, I think it's a wrap up, and we appreciate everyone's time, and we'll see you in Houston in December.
Thank you, Galen.
Thank you, Jeff.